What's happening, man? I think I want to talk about parasites. Parasites, bruh. So, when I say parasites, I'm not talking about like spiritual parasites, though I believe that's a thing. I mean, it's apparent that that's a thing to me, but I mean, literal parasites. Um, the homie keeper of the key posted a video clip that was saying a bunch of stuff that I was aware of, but like I don't really see a lot of people talking about that. And that's not the first time that she's posted something about parasites. So I actually appreciate that because, you know, common theme. I think that's just kind of what my lane is, to be honest, is to talk about shit that people don't want to talk about. Seems the most pertinent to me, seems to make the most sense. Especially for the type of person I am. I'm always like that, doing shit that other people don't want to do or that I'm not supposed to do or whatever, you know. The music I like and all that shit, and it just kind of makes sense. How archetypal of me. Um, so everybody, everybody has parasites. Every single one of you has parasites. I have parasites. You have parasites. Animals have parasites. Plants more than likely have some parasites too. Um, I know that there's probably some people that are gonna be on that like Anunnaki Tiamat can do no wrong type shit, but it's not. It's not the fault of the person that has said parasites. Um, there's multiple levels to it. Um, as usual, there's not really a definitive answer as to like where certain parasites come from, or all of them in general. I mean, it depends on what you really uh, resonate with as far as truth goes, because you know there's different views on. I mean, everything. Uh, Is that the firmament or is it the sky? Are we on a ball or is it flat? Is it hollow? Is it 9 realms stacked on top of each other? Um, so it just kind of depends. I mean, some people would say that some parasites are organic to here, which would make sense. That line, I mean, you know, for some, that lines up with some of my thoughts on what this place is. Some people believe that some of them come from other places, other realms. And you could say space. I prefer the literal sense of extraterrestrial. I can't remember who talked about it, but somebody broke down from a alternative perspective on what extraterrestrial actually means. And the reason I gave it an ear is because most of the stuff that you are told about this place and things and concepts and phrases, they all have like a double meaning, like double speak. And so the initial thought is extraterrestrial just means alien, you know, foreign to the habitat. But this person broke it down from the perspective of the Terra Confundum, I think is how you say it, and I can't remember. But it's essentially, there's an Italian dude, I think it's Italian PNC, on YouTube, Terra Confundum. Really detailed work on the flat Earth model. I don't know if he went into like hollow Earth, but I've definitely watched some of his work on. It's not just talking about the concept of a flat Earth. This dude has very, very, very detailed maps of this realm. You know, the ice wall concept around this realm, and then just dozens and dozens of other realms that are usually seen as planets, or you know, not just planets. Like there's an astral type realm. Like I really like. I don't want to say like. I don't have an opinion on it like that in that way. It makes sense to me. It makes more sense to me than the concept of space and all that stuff. So, thinking in that, you know, line of thought, how how hard would it be for parasitic beings to make it here, you know? Just because we don't see travel and commerce going to and fro from the realm itself, we see it on a microcosm, you know. This country or continent trades with that country or continent, and then you see an invasive species. They tried to scare the shit out of everybody with some kind of bug earlier this year. Said it was gonna end. They said it was gonna end everything. This fucking bug. They said it was gonna end everything. But think about that on a macro scale. You know, as far as that map concept goes. And to give you an idea of why I think that. So it makes sense. The map that this dude is presenting, I don't know if he created it, you know, from all his studying or what, but it really does encompass. I mean, Asgard is on this map. Obviously, you've got the U.S., you've got the land of the clones, and these are all similar systems. I don't think they're all enclosed, like firmament enclosed, but obviously they're not. You know, Mars, Jupiter, all these concepts, all these things that we've been taught are past a certain point in the sky are on this map, and they're their own lands. Some of them have green terrain, some of them have snowy terrain, some of them have terrain that, you know, I'm sure he just kind of filled in for what he's used to as a human on this realm, because I would think the lands would be all kinds of different colors, but Some of them have ice walls. Some of them have two suns. Some of them have four suns. So, thinking in that line of thought, people, beings, I'll say beings, because people is a derogatory word if you look it up. Beings are traveling here. They're vacationing here. They're traveling here. Um, some of them niggas probably have parasites. I don't fucking know. But point being, one of my usual points, we don't know shit. We think we know things sometimes just because we think about it and we come up with our own answer. Many more times, though, it's because someone told you that. Many times, repeatedly. So, um, and then to flip that, sometimes you think something because no one has told you about it. Going back to the topic, parasites, people think they don't have parasites because no one talks about it. If you go to a doctor right now with symptoms and say they're consistent with some kind of parasitic infection, it's they don't want to hear that shit. It's very difficult to get them to test. It's very difficult to get them to treat. And so, and I mean, even if they did, nigga, I don't fuck with doctors. I don't fuck with none of that shit. That's just another institution designed to slowly kill you, but they'll knock you the fuck off if you fuck with them in the wrong way. But it's vast. Everyone has It's not that everyone just has parasites. It's that there's so many different types. One that I think a lot of people, or some people, I'm not going to say a lot. I think because I know of something and I've talked to a couple other people that know about it, that a lot of people know about it. There's one called toxoplasmosis. Toxio? I don't fucking know. Toxoplasmosis. You get it from cat piss. And, by the way, I guess trigger warning, that shit is gay to me, but this one, I'll do that because this is not, it's not like my other topics are lighthearted or, fun to most. I think the shit's interesting to talk about. My topics, I think they're interesting to talk about because this is all I think about. All this stuff that I talk about. But these are not comfortable things to think about. This parasite shit. I'm gonna talk about some other stuff too, but this is where I wanted to start because Keeper of the Key, that video was, the way that they worded it was what people need to hear. It's not just, beware of parasites. And all of y'all have parasites. We all do. I'm in the process right now of trying to detox, and there's no way to confirm if I got rid of them or if you can get rid of them or any of that shit. But I'm using discernment. I'm using intuition, and it's, there's an effect. And it'll make more sense as I keep giving examples of different types of parasites and what they affect. And if you have studied physiology at all, then side effects, or they're not side effects, but the effects will make more sense, especially when I'm going to talk about my own. But toxoplasmosis, you get from cat piss. You don't have to have a cat to get it. You can just be around one. And this particular parasite can change you. Can change you as a being. It can change your, perspective on things. It can change your personality, just generally speaking. I believe some of the effects are, it makes you more impulsive. It makes you more aggressive, just very primal shit. And, again, the way that I try to think about everything, not just this shit or any of the other shit I've talked about, everything, is I do like to find out shit and I do like to study, but I won't say I take things with a grain of salt because some things really do just make sense. Uh, if not just to me, period. It just makes sense. That's the thing that makes the most sense. But that doesn't make it true, and it doesn't mean that it's, the correct thing or the right way to look at it. Um, but it does seem like that's a thing, but it's one of those things where it's like, how would you know? Like, how are you gonna know if a person has toxoplasmosis? And it affects the brain, so it's one of those things where, if I'm not mistaken, you can't do a test for that. You have to be dead. You have to be dead. They have to analyze your brain specifically. So I guess that one's just a fun a fun gimme example. Um, but I think a cat can scratch you, probably lick a tiny abrasion on your skin. But regardless to that, it kind of shows one of the things that I think about pretty regularly. It's you have I won't say you. I have to, because I think too much, or I think a lot, not too much. I have to constantly check myself to keep from becoming a germaphobe, because you know part of the reason that I wanted to talk about this is we're all fucking disgusting. Everyone. Everyone is disgusting. We just kind of tell ourselves that we're not. Obviously, there are some cultures and some people who are better about it. Um, but it's like you might do one thing as a person or a culture to be less gross, but you definitely have three other things that you do that's gross. You know, Japanese people keep slippers in their house. They don't wear their outside shoes in the house ever. It's seen as a sign of disrespect to do that. And I think there's some other connotations to it too, but I don't want to speculate on that necessarily. But they don't just keep slippers for the people that live in the house. They keep guest slippers. So if you come over to their house, you're going to take your shoes off before you actually enter the house. Some of them, they put their shoes at the very front of the house. Some of them won't even, you can't bring shoes in the house. They keep their shoes and your shoes outside. But the reason that that's significant is, think about all the shit that's outside. We don't do that because we don't want to think about that. And as always, I get that. Who wants to think about the many gross things we step on, doing whatever we got to do throughout the day? But it doesn't take away the fact that that is an actuality. So you step on all this nasty, gross shit. I'm not even going to give examples. Literally anything you can think of, you probably step on at some point, multiple times when you walk around. Then you bring that into your house. You bring that into your house. And that includes things like parasites. I would think it's a little bit more, less probable if you are wearing shoes, obviously, but still, most of us don't know shit about microbiology, so I'm not going to speculate on that either. But I assume that you can bring, parasites into your house with shoes, but we're all gross, and those habits or those practices, I won't call them habits, those practices that we all have, they don't help. You know, they don't help. But at the same time, what are you really gonna do about it? You know, there, the way that societies and civilizations currently are set up, a lot of the time it's not meant to be cleaner or more sanitary. And even if it's, you know, being made to look that way, it's still not. You know, when that thing happened in 2020, everybody was putting on the masks, and since then, uh, there have been videos coming out of how gross the you know, circumstances are in the places that make those masks. Not all of them, obviously, but some of them. You know, you got niggas just putting them on the floor. I don't even remember the video because I have this thing that is difficult to get rid of. But if I don't like something, like if I don't want to know it, sometimes my brain will just like wipe it. So all I can remember is I saw a video of they were sewing those blue and white medical masks, and I just remember whatever else was going on in the video, which was obviously the point of the video, made me be like, oh, I don't want to know this. So I just wiped it. I have no idea what was going on. Maybe you've seen the video, maybe not, but that's just, you know, pretty much anything you can think of, like people cooking your food, you cooking your food. Like you have to have a level of disassociation to exist, you know. And part of that, I think, has to do with parasites. But I think that it's talked about so little that that's not one of the things that people actively, or beings actively, like consider if they were to think about parasites. I think that that's something that they avoid. Um, and not just because, you know, well, I don't want to think about that, because there's an active campaign to keep you from knowing about that, because symptoms equal money. That's the way that um, this iteration of civilization works in most places. Western medicine isn't just in the West, you know. There are places that embrace what people call Eastern medicine, or, you know, alternative medicine, whatever you want to call it. But even then, you know, gross practices. And part of it is that you can't really escape it. You can try to do the best that you can, but you can't really escape it. If you have children, you gotta go to playgrounds sometimes. And I didn't know this until I had a kid, but there's a pretty decent risk for getting like a slew of parasites, hookworms. I forgot the other one. Hookworms. Um, pinworms. Pinworms, like just to the point where there's next time you go to a drugstore, pay attention when you're in the like medicine aisle, and you'll see um, pinworm medication. They sell pinworm medication. It happens so often that they sell it. I'm sure it don't do shit uh, to actually get rid of the thing, because that's not how this place works. It's always like an illusion of getting rid of a thing. Not always. A lot of the time, it's an illusion of getting rid of a thing. So, um, you know, and these symptoms are the same types of symptoms that go with 20 other things. So the reason why a lot of people don't know that they have, um, you know, some form or forms of parasites is because not only because you're not being told that, but also because the symptoms, you know, are just kind of hard to narrow down sometimes. And then on top of that, parasites are vastly intelligent life forms. And what I mean by that is it's not effective, it's not, you know, beneficial for a parasite to just get in and murk your system, you know? It's more beneficial for it to assimilate, to get into your body, and maybe you have some symptoms, but they're symptoms that you can't really narrow down to just being a parasite most times. The way that they work, you know, is very subtle, but also very dangerous. Some way more dangerous than others, admittedly, but honestly, the ones that are more dangerous, if it's not going to kill you in a day, those are the ones that you want, because at least you have a symptom that is so specific or so intense that you go check it out, you know, or you start doing something about it, because there's pretty general medication, or not medications, but supplements and remedies that will blast out a bunch of different types of parasites. So you kind of want the ones that let you know, hey, I'm in here fucking you up. Because the more subtle ones are the ones that I'm really thinking about when I talk about this. Those are the ones that made me talk about this, you know, to begin with. Because it's not just that they're subtle, some of them are straight from a horror movie, you know? And it's horrific, but it's easy to be nonchalant about, or to shrug off, because you know you can't see inside your body. You can't. I mean, and a lot of the time they're so small, or the way that their physiology is set up, it's just not something that you're gonna notice or see. But people, there are beings that have a real issue with, say, you know, bread. They think they're addicted to bread, or they think they're you know, addicted to sugar. I got a sweet tooth, you know. I got a sweet tooth. I can't stop eating sugar. Whatever they might say to themselves. There are, so for instance, there's another one, Candida. Not Canada. Canada is a parasite. That's funny as fuck. Candida. Candida. Very, very common. I think most people have it in the U.S. I think. Yeah, fuck that. I'm not going to be careful about the shit that I say. I think they probably give it to people. And by they, I don't mean shadowy government shit necessarily, although what's the difference? It's all the same people. I mean, I could, you know, you could even say maybe the sugar, big sugar, whoever the fuck that is, the sugar industry, because Candida feeds on yeast and sugar. And that's significant because when you look at your food, if you look at the ingredients of your food, I try to look at the ingredients all the time. As a rule, if you look at the ingredients of most of your food, you'll notice that there's sugar and shit that why the fuck is there sugar in this? You know? There's sugar and shit that has no purpose for sugar. There's no reason to put sugar in this. I don't understand why there's sugar in my bread. Or just random shit. I'm not gonna do a whole list of shit that has sugar in it, but you probably noticed it and just, you know, kind of shrug it off like whatever, who gives a fuck. For one, that shit is unhealthy because it's processed sugar, obviously. But also, it's feeding something inside you. It's feeding something inside you. And I can't think of a better reason for there to be sugar in so much shit than to feed that. Which, like a lot of the shit that I talk about, that is not something I necessarily want to know or think about. But at the same time, I do want to know about that. I want to know about that so that I can, because sometimes I need a fucking motivator, I need a motivator to not eat shit. Sugar is addictive as fuck. That's like probably, I would say most likely that's the most addictive drug. All encompassing. When you think about everything, and everyone, I meant to say everyone, even people that are like, oh, I've never touched a drug in my life. I don't drink, I don't do none of that. I bet you eat sugar though. That's the most prevalent and most addictive drug. Sugar. And, previously I thought it was just because it's like, probably engineered to be addictive or whatever. But the reality is that, these invaders in your body don't just get in there and post up. They can do things. They can influence you, and you think it's your urge or your thought. By that I mean like the sugar thing, for instance. Like, you wake up in the middle of the night and you think you want a midnight snack, but that's something else that's telling you it's hungry. Or you are trying real hard to eat, better foods, because all of it is shit. All the food is shit. But you're trying to eat the ones that you deem to be or have been told are better for you. But you end up eating pasta, with tomato sauce that has sugar in it. The noodles got sugar in them. That's not just because you have a weak will or because you're so addicted to food in the way that you think. That is an organism living in your body, releasing specific chemicals. And I'm not going to pretend like I know how that works, because that's very specific. That's specific as fuck. That's super advanced. You could say in a way, like, that's more intelligent than we're capable of by far, in a very specific way. Not to say that it's more intelligent than us in every single way, but I don't know the first thing about releasing chemicals in somebody else's brain. That wasn't, I don't know how to say that in a better way, but there are beings that can get into your body and, not just shut down your kidney or eat your muscle, or, even though there are some that can do those things, there are ones that can also get inside of you and influence your decision making, influence your mood, influence your personality. Like, those are horrifying attributes to consider. If you need like a practical example of that, rather than just going and looking it up, there's and I'm sure most people have probably seen this by now, there's a A wasp? Yeah, there's a wasp that zombifies ants. I think it's a wasp. There's a something I can't fucking remember, but it's very specific to ants. Um, I think maybe the wasp like carries the parasite, and then it gets to the ant through the wasp's sting or touch or whatever, and it controls the ant from that point. Um, and like I've said before, these concepts in these movies and shit, they're the people that make those movies half the time are not creative people. I'll say like big budget movies, because indie movies are a really big thing now. When I was a kid, it was just big budget. You didn't see indie movies. Not to say they didn't make them, but you just didn't see them. So thinking about it from that perspective, from back then, like those people making those big movies didn't have they don't have creativity like that. So where did Puppet Master come from? Which is the one where it's kind of like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but it's like an organic type alien. It shows up. They look like a stingray with like a whip thing, and they post up on your back. They suck up to your back and then use the whip like proboscis thing to go into your spinal column up into your brain stem and then just control you. Like, where do you think they get the idea for shit like that? You know? And it's not to say that some dude couldn't have come up with that, you know, also. But I just don't believe that when things like that get repeated like so often, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Puppet Master, and there's a whole bunch of other movies where I think there's one called Thaw. When they repeat a theme that much, it's because they know of something that's like that. Is what I've found. Because I watch a fuckload of movies, man. I watch a fuckload of movies. I read a bunch of books. Like, these things get repeated, and I think it's because it's not. I don't want to say it's intentional disclosure or soft disclosure, but they don't have the creativity, but they want to make the money. And whether we know it or not, when we're told a story that we're subconsciously familiar with, I don't even want to say subconsciously. I don't know what to call that. It's almost like a memory that. It's like a memory that's been wiped, but your subconscious is aware of the memory. I don't know. I don't know how to say that. It resonates more. People will watch it more if it makes sense to you, whether you're conscious of it making sense or not. And there's a fuckload of Parasite premises. And I said earlier, I'm working on like trying to detox from, you know, because when I started looking into the Parasite thing, like, and realized that I didn't need to just be a little extra careful when I take my kid, the pup, to the playground, because you know. If they take their shoes off, you're running a big risk of them getting pinworm and shit like that. But through me looking into that just for a couple days, I started to find information on just hundreds of parasite situations that people should be told about, people should be aware of. And then, you know, not just that, they don't do shit about it. Like they'll do tests in rural areas, find out that it's just fucked with parasites, and then they don't do shit. I kind of have a theory that they do those tests to see if they can maybe utilize those parasites. But that's, that's just a theory. I don't even think they really have to. The way that shit seems to work is just a negligence. When do you think the last time they replaced the pipes that we get all our water from? They don't really. Negligence is a way to accomplish a lot of shit, it seems like, for those beings. What's happening? I'm not gonna stay on the parasite thing for too long. Just, I'm not gonna try to. I don't want to shy away from shit, and a lot of the stuff that I want to touch on, just generally speaking, the reason I started talking publicly instead of just posting pictures and videos and shit or clips is because that's a big problem for us as a whole. Like, obviously, when you start looking at things from an individual standpoint, people, beings, some people will be, less shy away from shit. I'm not saying. Basically, I'm saying that I'm not the only person that wants to talk about these things or doesn't care to shy away from shit. But as a whole, as a hive mind or whatever you want to call whatever this is, the more prevalent tactic is anything that makes me uncomfortable, I'm gonna run from. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to see it. Life's too hard as it is. I'm just gonna ignore it. But that's why shit is like this, to this extent to begin with, because people don't want to talk about shit. They don't want to address shit. As long as things are going good for them and theirs, then, well, that sucks, but it's not my deal, not my situation. And that's how we got here. That's how we got to this from a certain perspective, if you don't think too hard on it. But I think that it's necessary for people to pay attention to. Like, if you have the means, I would at least briefly do some kind of like parasite cleanse, because we do all have them. You are not the exception to the rule. There is no exception to the rule. Everybody has them. Brain, gut is a really big one. I think brain's probably a big one too. There's probably less information on stuff like that than is available, or you would want to be available. Heart, I think heart is probably a big one. I don't know. I didn't want to try to look up every single possibility, but the reality is that Candida is definitely a big one. And that's, like I said, got y'all eating fuckloads of sugar, putting sugar in every type of food. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. And so as I was like looking into that today, not the first time, or not really looking into it, as I was watching that video, I was like, oh, I want to talk about that. Then later, I'm, listening to lectures, and a Brother Panic lecture came up in my queue. And it was called, I keep forgetting that it's in the name, but I didn't really understand, because Panic, he used to name his shit crazy stuff sometimes. I do that too, but it was called like Gnostic Mutant Flat Earth, some shit. But I'm really, I'm really waist deep in the Gnostic teachings right now. So if I see somebody that I already respect or already like listen to talking about Gnosticism, I'm probably gonna try to listen to it and see what they got to say, what their perspective on it is. And I've never thought about this before, but he was reading from some book, and he kept saying his book too. So I don't know if he was reading from his book or what it was, but he was basically making delineations and connections between Gnosticism and flat Earth. I know that's a real intense fucking transition. I didn't transition at all, but that's how my brain works. Welcome to that. But it really made a lot of fucking sense, man. And it, even on the level of, I've looked into and done some studies on both, the flat Earth theory and the argument and all that other shit. And just based on a couple of things, that it makes more sense to me. People have known the realm as a circle for thousands of years. Then all of a sudden, in the 19th century, they just start saying the heliocentric model all of a sudden. And then they do that same NASA shit where they like show you video, or not video necessary, animations and pictures and shit of a heliocentric realm when they don't have satellites. So how the fuck do you know what the globe looks like if you can't see the globe? Like, how do you know it's even that if you've never seen it? So whose idea was that? Where did that come from? And how did they make that assertion? Like, where did that even come from, But on the other side, more than one text, ancient text, all reference a form of flat or flat hollow or, basically firmament theory. And honestly, just off of the consistencies between a bunch of different mystery systems, for them all to say the same shit. You've seen the picture before. You're on fucking Instagram, so you've seen the picture. Like, they have all these different depictions of the different civilizations and countries' idea of what the realm looks like. All of them are some sort of flat or like, enclosed realm, except for America now. And I mean, I guess, the way that the picture is set up, it makes it seem like it's just America, but the whole world thinks it's that now. And it just really, the context makes it make no sense. NASA lies about everything. None of the stuff that they show you is even real. That shit is all CGI, bro. They say it's CGI. It's not a conspiracy. They tell you this is a composite of data. And then we get artists to render the shit. None of those pictures are real. It is not a conspiracy. Once again, none of those pictures are real. None of those depictions come from fact. It's all projection, as they'll tell you. And then to take it a step further, the projection is even fake. Like, but that's, neither here nor there. But the Gnostic, I don't want to call it necessarily a belief system, although I guess it is a belief system. The Gnostic thought process really, really coincides with that theory. And all the texts that support that from completely different periods in the existence of this realm just all over the place. BCE, you know, what is it? CCE? Why did they change that shit? AD, like all of the periods except for now knew that it was a flat disc plane of some sort. Some of them go into, you know, some more detail and talk about what's under the top. It shows you Sheol and all that stuff. The side of that same one shows the framework for the firmament and stuff like that. But the story, the creation story, the Pistis Sophia, Yaldabaoth, you know, Yaldabaoth going on to create the 12 archons, like, when you really get into that whole system, and then you look at how things are here now today, and even just using intuition on how hard they want people to believe NASA, how much money they spend on, you know, their quote, their so-called like missions and all this other stuff, even though I won't say people think about it on a regular basis, but as a collective, we all know they faked. They faked a lot of shit, like moon landing, fake. You know, the dude that did it said he did it. The director that faked that said he faked it. Werner von Braun on his headstone put a verse from the Bible that talks about the firmament, and the firmament is immovable. You can't get through it. So why did he put that on his headstone? Like, there's too many clues to what the real is versus what you're being pushed into believing. And I mean that, you know, it's not just that. It happens with a bunch of stuff. And people always want to argue with you when you talk about it. Like, same thing with dinosaurs. Like, there's a significant amount of information that shows, you know, people talking about dragons. I won't say evidence of. I think they have found some shit that look like dragons, though. But they haven't actually found a full dinosaur's remains. They find like a femur or, you know, a neck bone or some shit, and then they piece the rest of that together based on like supposedly models that tell them that that's what the dinosaur would have looked like. All that shit is goofy. And I'm not being random with the dinosaur thing, just that's not in the text. They don't talk about dinosaurs in the Bible or in the Numa Elish or they don't talk about dinosaurs. They talk about dragons. They talk about, you know, unicorns, even though I found out that the unicorn that's referenced in the religious text is actually just talking about the rhinoceros. But probably also fucking unicorns. What you think a unicorn is. I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. I think that might be a misdirection, actually. Probably just talking about rhinoceros. Now that I think about it. Because there's a bi-rhinoceros and there's a uni-rhinoceros. One horn, two horns. I think they were just talking about the single-horned rhinoceros. But if you look into that creation story, it makes way more sense for all the stuff that, you know, we can look around and see now. People feel it. There's all these people talking about soul traps, and this feels like a prison, and so on, so on, so on. And if a being is on that train of thought, they talk about, you know, prison planet or your soul is trapped here, or even the people that talk about like you signed a contract to come here and do this and do that, like for you to believe that means that you're basing those beliefs in texts, root text. You might not realize that that's what you're doing, but you are doing that. And in those texts, it says that you live on a flat plane that has a firmament above to keep the waters, uh, you know, out. The waters above out. And above that is the realm of God, or the gods, really. And then same thing below. There's but to hear, I guess what I'm saying is, if you are so inclined, go fucking give that video a listen, because Panic was really long-winded sometimes, but this was a different. It wasn't his channel. It was somebody else's channel. I can't remember their name. I might try to find it and put it so you can see it. But I already did, actually. I posted a picture of me listening to it, a screenshot of YouTube. So go listen to that, man. Go listen to that and see if it doesn't vibrate with you, because I'll admit I'm already on the Gnosticism train at the moment. It's making a lot of sense, even though it's dark, but I think it'll help make some stuff make sense for people. Man, what's up with y'all, bruh? I fucking had another goofy interaction, and the only ones I talk about are the ones that I kind of get the feeling are real people that are just suffering. They're just getting fucking manipulated, like the fucking so-called black men hate so-called black women, or that whole argument, the back and forth, whichever way you want to put that, description of it. They got y'all fighting, man. It's dumb. And I tried to tell somebody that. I was like, I think I just said something like, this is a distraction from the true work. And it just lit this fire in them to ignore the idea to ask me what I meant, and just start arguing with me like I'm the dude in the video that's saying all the, kind of patriarchal shit. It wasn't terrible. I've seen much worse. I've seen dudes that really were out of pocket. This dude just kind of like is on a path to bettering his perspective, but said some dumb shit. He said some dumb shit too that I didn't support. I don't support it. I believe in a matriarchal setup. I don't like how far people are trying to take it. I will say that. I think that's kind of like some psyopy type shit. But I do believe in a matriarchal society, the right way, the right kind, not just like you had your turn, now we gonna take over now, not like that. But yeah, she just lost it immediately. Didn't even ask me what I meant. If she would have asked me what I meant, I would have told her that my opinion is that we're all wrong, but not through our own fault. It's not our fault that men, Aboriginal men and Aboriginal women specifically, but not just that, period. It's not just, us arguing about that. They got all men and all women arguing about that, but us specifically, they've always done that to us. They pit us against each other, since they got here, and it's to keep us from uniting and being able to fight the stuff that they want to do. They're the source of all the problems, but they got us arguing with each other. The shit's gay.